Smile for me, not for him, said the Alpha seconds later. The entire pack froze. The clearing pulsed with life that night, thick with the scent of pine resin, wet earth, and the electric crackle of too many predators packed too tightly together. A dozen bonfires threw shadows across the forest floor, their flames catching in dozens of amber eyes. My bare feet sank into the mossy ground, but I held my head high, even as every instinct screamed at me to run. I had no right to be here. Not under the blood moon. Not in Shadowfang territory. And definitely not among wolves who would rip me apart just for breathing too loud. 6 months on the run had taught me how to move unseen, how to swallow my scent and my fear. But tonight, all of that shattered the second they dragged me into the circle, a rogue female with no pack, no rank, and no protection. A low growl vibrated behind me. Smile for me, a scarred male sneered as he circled. Come on, mutt. Let's see those pretty teeth. The crowd began to stir, laughter bubbling up. Then, a single voice. Cold, commanding. Sharp enough to silence the night. Smile for me. Not for him, said the Alpha. And the entire pack froze. The clearing smelled like blood and smoke. Ash floated through the air in delicate spirals, catching on my lashes as 2 burly enforcers dragged me into the circle. My shoulders ached from the tight grip they'd kept since dusk, and my wrists were raw from the binds, though I'd stopped struggling hours ago. Now, I saved my strength. For what? I didn't know. Escape? Begging? Something worse? The bonfires crackled, casting long shadows across the wolves who surrounded me, all cloaked in dark leathers, half-shifted with claws and fangs barely restrained. I recognized none of them by face, but their scent told me everything. Shadowfang. Border guards, and the snarling crowd gathering now? Pack wolves, powerful ones, their scents layered with smoke, steel, and dominance. I was deep in enemy territory. A rogue female. An unclaimed omega. Which, to them, made me prey. I forced my head up, jaw tight, back straight. I wouldn't show them fear. Even if I could feel it, hot and sour, sliding down my spine like melting ice. She reeks of outsider, someone near the front said, nose wrinkled. Should have snapped her neck at the border, muttered another. She shifted near the black pines, one of the guards announced, shoving me forward. South of the wards. Gasps followed. Whispers curled around me like smoke. I didn't understand why that detail mattered more than my being an illegal trespasser, but the energy shifted palpably. From hostility to suspicion. A circle cleared, slow and deliberate, the way prey was offered to something sacred and hungry. And from that circle's edge, he stepped forward. The Alpha. Ronan Thorn. He was taller than I'd expected. Broad-shouldered. With a posture that was all bone-deep authority and predatory grace. His dark hair was swept back, slightly tousled like he'd just stepped away from war, or sex, or both. Moonlight clung to him in streaks of silver, highlighting the faint scar beneath his left eye, and the tattoo that curled up his throat, black lines inked in Old Tongue, from a language only the oldest wolves remembered. The air bent around him. Not literally, but almost, as if it hesitated to touch him, as if it feared what it might become. His amber eyes locked on mine. I held his gaze, because to look away would be to submit, and I'd rather die on my feet than kneel to another Alpha. Especially this one. She shifted near the black pines, the enforcer repeated, a little louder, a little braver, with Ronan's presence between him and me. That's sacred ground. She didn't shift there, a voice said, sharper, feminine. I turned slightly. A woman stepped forward from the firelit crowd. Tall, blonde, elegant in a cruel way. She wore a long black coat cinched at the waist, and eyes like winter frost. She bled there. Ronan's gaze never left mine. Is this true? I didn't answer. One of the guards slammed his elbow into the back of my knee, forcing me to the ground. Pain lanced up my thigh, but I refused to cry out. Dirt ground into the skin of my palms as I caught myself. Answer the Alpha, the woman snapped. She didn't shift, the male enforcer said again. She bled. She was hurt healing. The murmurs returned. This time, edged with something else. Fear. She has no pack mark, someone pointed out. No collar, no bite. She's an Omega, came another. Unclaimed. But she carries magic. I tried to push to my feet, but a boot hit my side and kept me kneeling. Enough. The word cracked like a whip. Ronan's voice. The weight of it rolled through the crowd, scattering silence in its wake. Even the flames seemed to dim. Slowly, deliberately, the pressure on my back was lifted. I rose, knees shaking, breath coming shallow. His amber gaze dragged over me, not lecherous or cruel, just assessing. "Your name," he said. "Does it matter?" I replied, my voice hoarse but steady. "You've already decided what I am." That earned a few growls from the crowd. The woman sneered. The guards shifted uneasily. But Ronan didn't flinch. He stepped closer. The air thickened. "I decide nothing until I know the truth," he said quietly. "Your name?" "Lyra." He blinked, just once. A flicker of something passed through his expression. Recognition? No, it was too fleeting. But he knew the name. "And your bloodline?" "My own," I said, lifting my chin. "That's all you need to know. You crossed sacred land. Bled on it. That's not something we overlook." I didn't ask to bleed there. He stared at me, unmoving. A cold voice broke the tension. "If she's not a spy, she's bait." All eyes turned toward the woman in the black coat. "She's too pretty to be a rogue by accident. Someone sent her, Castien's pack, maybe. Or the Blood Maw." "She's not one of theirs," Ronan said, still watching me. "You don't know that," the woman argued. "She doesn't smell like them." "She doesn't smell like anyone," someone muttered. The insult landed, but I didn't react. I couldn't afford to. Ronan stepped even closer now. He was within striking distance, though we both knew I'd never land a blow. Still, I tilted my chin defiantly. "You're unbound," he said. "Yes." "You're not registered." "No." "Your shift pattern irregular?" That surprised me. My brows lifted. "Yes." His gaze darkened. "And your eyes?" I hesitated. "What about them?" He didn't answer, but the tension around us thickened. I saw it now, pack members whispering, shifting uncomfortably. Someone behind me growled, low and possessive. The male who tried to force me to kneel earlier stepped forward again. "I say we test her. Make her shift now. See what hides beneath the skin." I turned slowly, jaw clenched. He grinned. "Come on, little stray. Give us a smile first. Show us those rogue teeth." A few others chuckled. I didn't. I stared at him, teeth bared not in submission, but warning. He stepped toward me, fingers curling like claws. Then came the voice. Low, cold, lethal. "Smile for me, not for him," said the alpha. Silence fell like a guillotine. Everything stilled. The laughing stopped. The snarl died on the man's lips. Even the wind seemed to retreat. I turned back slowly. Ronan's gaze was fire now, not just commanding but dangerous, territorial. The male slunk back, without another word. My heart slammed against my ribs. Why? Why defend me? Why risk his authority for a nameless, unclaimed stray? Ronan didn't blink. Didn't explain. He just turned to the woman beside him and said, "Call the seer." The woman stiffened. "Ronan, she's not just a trespasser. You don't know that." "I do." He looked at me again, his voice even. "She smells like old blood and forgotten oaths. She didn't come here by accident." I felt it, then really felt it. The way the ground hummed beneath my feet. The way the moon above trembled behind the clouds. The way the pack watched me now, not with mockery, but fear, and something worse. Recognition. They didn't know me. But something inside them did. And suddenly, I wasn't just a rogue anymore. I was something else entirely. Ronan turned to me, slowly. "You will come to the keep," he said. "You will be questioned, protected." I almost laughed. Protected from what? His amber gaze didn't waver. "From whatever comes looking for you." And just like that, the fire cracked higher. The wind picked up, and the blood moon slid from behind the clouds red as spilled prophecy. I was no longer just the trespasser. I was the storm they weren't ready for. And they had just let me in. They didn't cuff me this time. But the message was clear. I was no guest. 4 guards flanked me as I walked 2 ahead, 2 behind. Not that they were afraid I'd run. No, it was more like they didn't trust what would happen if I stayed too close to any one wolf too long. They watched me, the way you'd watch a weapon without a safety. The path to the keep twisted through dense woods lit only by torches and moonlight. Trees whispered secrets above us, their bare branches clawing at the stars. I'd walked through forests all my life, but this one breathed with something older, heavier. The air pressed in thick around my shoulders, and the silence wasn't empty, it was expectant. I could feel the pack's eyes, even when I couldn't see them. Tracking me, judging me, waiting to see what I'd become. I didn't blame them. I didn't know either. The keep wasn't a castle, though it looked like one. Old stone. Spiked gates. Ironwood doors wide enough for a beast in full shift to pass through. It rose like a fortress out of the mountain's spine, half forgotten by time, claimed now by the Shadowfang. The doors opened before I reached them. And there he was. Ronan. He stood just inside the threshold, lit by flickering sconces. Arms folded over his chest. His eyes, molten amber, unreadable, locked onto me the second I crossed the archway. And stayed there. I didn't flinch. But gods, I felt it. That look. It was the kind of look that stripped layers you hadn't even realized you wore. It burned away defenses, seeped under skin. His gaze wasn't hunger. Not yet. It was calculation, a hunter determining if what stood before him was prey or something worse. You didn't shift when he challenged you, he said, voice quiet but hard as stone. I shook my head. You could've. I didn't want to. A flicker passed through his expression. Not surprise. Something deeper. Something that unsettled him. You don't want them to see, he said. You don't want to see. That got a reaction. His jaw ticked. His nostrils flared just slightly. Are you accusing me of fear, little wolf? I'm accusing you of pretending you aren't curious. That landed. His mouth twitched like he might smile, then didn't. Instead, he turned and walked deeper into the hall, expecting me to follow. I did, without a word. The keep's halls were dim, the walls ancient. Worn by time. But clean. Controlled. That was Ronan's pack in a word, controlled. Brutal, maybe, but not chaotic. No wildness for the sake of it. No unclaimed madness. Everything had purpose. Every footstep. Every shadow. I was not a thing with purpose here. Not yet. Where are you taking me? The seer is preparing. Preparing for what? You. His tone made my stomach twist. Not with fear. With awareness. Every inch of this place whispered his presence. The cool stone beneath my feet. The echo of his steps ahead. The wolf in me, the one I kept buried since the first time she tried to claw free, stirred. She wanted to run. Toward him. Not away. You feel it too, he said without looking back. I didn't say anything. You didn't have to. I hated that he was right. The bond, whatever it was, if it was real at all, itched under my skin like a half-healed scar. Wolves sometimes formed connections. Pack, mate, blood. This wasn't any of those. At least, I didn't think it was. But the more I looked at him, the more the shape of his voice curled around something hollow in my chest. We stopped at a carved wooden door, bound in runes I didn't recognize. She's waiting, Ronan said, and opened it for me. The seer. Old, blind, wrapped in silk and moonstones, sat in the center of a circular room heavy with incense and magic. Her eyes were glazed silver, her hair white and wild. She didn't look at me. She didn't need to. You brought her, she said, voice like gravel and rain. I did, Ronan answered. She bled on the old ground. The wards answered. I frowned. What does that mean? It means, the seer said, finally turning her face toward mine, you don't walk on cursed land unless you are part of its curse. Or its cure, I thought. But I didn't say it. She gestured me forward. I stepped onto the woven circle rug, and it thrummed under my feet like a heartbeat. I looked back at Ronan, but he'd already stepped into the shadows. Watching. Not interfering. Coward, I thought bitterly. Give me your hand, the seer said. I hesitated, then offered my palm. She took it, her fingers cold, bony, dry as parchment. Her grip tightened suddenly, hard enough to sting. She inhaled sharply, and the room changed. The torches flared blue. The runes around the walls pulsed. The scent of ash and wolf and pine vanished, replaced with iron and violets and something burnt. The seer's lips moved, but no sound came out. Her eyes rolled back. I tried to pull away. Her grip held. Blood moon born, she rasped, voice not her own. Daughter of ruin and root. The wolf beneath the skin is not your first. What the hell does that mean? The storm comes clothed in a girl, she breathed, with teeth like prophecy and eyes like fire. Her voice dropped. The last time the forest bled. She was born. And then, she collapsed. I caught her before she hit the floor, heart hammering. Ronan was beside me in 2 steps, lifting the seer effortlessly and laying her on the cushions. What did she see? He asked. More to the air than to me. What did she see? I demanded, voice shaking. But he didn't answer. He didn't need to. Because in that moment, when I looked at him, I saw it. Not just the alpha. Not just the power, but the fear. Not for him. For me. Because something ancient had just spoken through the seer. And whatever it said, confirmed his worst suspicion. I wasn't just a trespasser. I was a reckoning. And he didn't know yet if he'd called me here to save his pack or to destroy it. They brought me a room, not a cell, not a dungeon. It was clean, Spartan. Stone walls, thick furs on the bed, a fireplace that crackled softly in the corner. Too much effort for a prisoner. Not enough comfort for a guest. It smelled faintly of cedar, and something darker old blood soaked into the bones of the keep, masked by firewood and the citrus edge of wolf musk. Not mine. His. Ronan. His scent was everywhere. In the stone. The sheets, the floorboards. I paced. The seer had said too much. Or too little. Her voice ragged. Otherworldly still echoed in my ears. The storm comes clothed in a girl, with teeth like prophecy and eyes like fire. She hadn't explained what I was. And no one had tried to, either. No guards. No more questions. Just a quiet escort to this chamber and a closed door behind me. I didn't like it. Ronan hadn't returned, and that bothered me more than I wanted to admit. Because I could still feel him. In my blood. In the places inside me that weren't quite wolf but weren't human anymore either. That tether, raw and invisible, thrummed under my skin. I should have been afraid. Instead, I was furious. I'd been hunted, judged, offered protection I didn't ask for, dragged before a prophecy like some lamb led to slaughter. And now they left me here, in limbo. I stalked to the door. Pulled it open. Ronan was there, leaning against the wall. Like he'd been waiting. His eyes flicked up slowly. Gold. Bright as flame. Unreadable as ever. You've been outside the door this whole time? I asked, voice low and sharp. Yes. Why? I didn't think you'd stay inside. I stared at him. He didn't flinch. You're not a prisoner. He added. Then what am I? His eyes didn't move. A trespasser. A mystery. And now. A threat. I swallowed hard. Glad we're clear. His expression didn't change. But something in his shoulders shifted, a subtle loosening. You should come with me, he said. I'm not going anywhere with you until someone explains what the seer saw. He tilted his head, the faintest nod of respect. You're owed answers. But first there's something I must do. That sounds ominous. He pushed off the wall and stepped closer. I offered you protection, he said. In front of the pack. That carries weight. Responsibility. And you regret it now? His eyes darkened. No. The word hung in the space between us, heavier than it should have been. He looked at me then like a man standing on the edge of something deep and dangerous. It's not just words, Lyra. An alpha's claim is binding, until your status is decided. What status? Whether you live. Whether you stay. Whether you belong. My pulse quickened. I hated how much his voice affected me. How much his presence pulled at the storm brewing in my chest. And you think you can decide that? I asked. I don't have to, he said. The pack will. He stepped even closer. Close enough that I could smell the warmth of his skin beneath the wolf salt, smoke, and something wild. His hand lifted, slow, deliberate. He didn't touch me. But he held something out. A pendant. Heavy. Ancient. A wolf carved in obsidian, teeth bared, the symbol of the Shadowfang burned into its side. It dangled from a black leather cord. My breath caught. I'm not putting that on. His eyes didn't flicker. Then you're unprotected. I don't need your protection. You're wrong. He didn't press it into my hand. He held it there, suspended. A test. A choice. Wear it, and I was marked. Off limits. Under his protection, but also his responsibility, a claim that could not be undone without consequence. I didn't ask for this, I said. He nodded once. But you walked into it. Bleeding on sacred ground during a blood moon? The seer nearly collapsed from your presence. That doesn't happen to rogues looking for shelter. I wasn't looking for anything. I know, he said quietly. That's what makes it worse. My hands curled into fists. You don't know me, I whispered. No, he said. But I will. He stepped forward again one more pace, and now he was so close I could feel the heat of him. His energy didn't crash against mine. It wrapped around me, dark, quiet, magnetic. Take it, he said. I looked down at the pendant. Obsidian, cold, dangerous. Just like him. Everything in me screamed not to accept it. That it was a trap. That this wasn't safety, it was a cage dressed in pretty symbols and alpha arrogance. But deeper still, beneath all that noise, was the wolf in me. And she was silent. Watching. Waiting. Then she leaned forward. I reached out and took the pendant. Ronan didn't smile. He didn't look satisfied. He just looked resigned. As if this, too, had been inevitable. I slid it over my head. The moment it settled against my skin, the world shifted. A hum bloomed in my chest. Power laced through the necklace like an electric current, thrumming through every nerve. My breath hitched. Ronan's eyes sharpened. You feel it, he said. Yes. Then you understand what it means. I understand I just made myself a target. His gaze didn't waver. You already were. He turned and walked down the corridor. This time, I followed. The wolves in the halls froze as we passed. Some stared. Some growled under their breath. None of them stepped forward. None of them dared. The mark was working. But it didn't feel like armor. It felt like chains. We reached a balcony at the far end of the keep. From there, I could see the entire Shadowfang territory stretching out under the moonlight mountains, forest, rivers. It was beautiful, terrible, and mine now. In some unspoken way, I stepped to the edge, breathing in the cold air, letting it fill my lungs. You're not safe, Ronan said beside me. Because of them? I asked. He looked at me, slowly. No, because of you. I turned to face him. You don't trust me. I don't understand you. Good. He stared for a long moment, then leaned closer. Just enough for his voice to brush my skin like a secret. When I do, it'll be too late to stop what you are. Something inside me twisted. Not fear. Recognition. He was right. But not for the reasons he thought. I wasn't something coming to destroy this place. I was something that had already begun. The first time it happened, I thought I was dreaming. I woke in a cold sweat, sheets twisted around my legs, my throat dry and burning. The pendant Ronan gave me lay heavy on my chest, pulsing faintly. Not with heat. With something else. It felt like a second heartbeat. The fire in the hearth had burned low. Shadows crawled across the stone walls like restless spirits, and my pulse raced without reason. I sat up, blinking through the dark, listening. Nothing. No footsteps. No breathing. No guards, but the silence wasn't empty. Something pressed against it. From inside me, I swung my legs over the edge of the bed and stood slowly, my balance off. The air in the room shifted, dense with a scent of rain and iron like a storm just outside the door. I walked to the small mirror near the basin, and I saw it. My reflection stared back, sweat-slick skin, hair tangled, pupils dilated wide like prey. But it wasn't just that. My eyes were glowing. Not bright, not blazing, but burning. Gold-rimmed with ember red, flickering like a dying fire. I gripped the edge of the table, chest heaving. What the hell is happening to me? The wolf in me stirred. She hadn't moved like this in years. Not since I first shifted and realized what I was. Not since I buried her under control. Under fear, under necessity. But now, she stretched awake inside my bones, like she'd been waiting all along. I stumbled back. Pain laced through my limbs, sharp, raw, electric. The kind of pain that came before a shift. But I wasn't trying to shift. I wasn't even trying to move. Still, my body shook, heat rolling through me in waves. I dropped to my knees, fingers clawing into the stone. My nails scraped deep, deeper than they should have. Because they weren't nails anymore. They were claws. The shift wasn't just coming. It was taking me. No, I gasped, digging my hands into the floor. No, stop. The wolf didn't listen. She never had. The door slammed open. Ronan stood there, barefoot, shirtless, eyes glowing like molten gold. He took one look at me and froze. "Get out," I growled. "No." His voice was calm, but I saw the way his hands flexed at his sides. I said, "You'll lose control if you fight it. It's not my moon. It's not the moon. It's you." He stepped into the room, slow, careful, like I was a live wire. I was. He knelt in front of me, and the second he touched my shoulder, everything inside me snapped. Not in pain, in recognition. Like two pieces of the same storm locking into place. The shift hit hard. My body curled inward, heat surging through my bones like wildfire. But instead of breaking, I expanded. Fur didn't rise. My bones didn't crack. The shift didn't finish. It stopped halfway, and I screamed. Not from pain, from power. My eyes flared red gold. My skin rippled with runes that hadn't been there before, burning softly across my arms, my collarbone, my throat. Ancient symbols. Ones I'd never seen. But I knew them. Ronan didn't move. His voice dropped low. Reverent. "What are you?" I looked up, snarling. "You tell me. You're the one who marked me." His hand lifted to the pendant around my neck. It burned against my skin. "It shouldn't do this," he murmured. "Not unless." "Unless what?" I hissed. "Unless you're not just wolf." Silence. Except for the fire, crackling higher in the hearth. Except for my pulse, thundering in my ears. He stared at me like I was a prophecy come to life. Like I was a ghost he hadn't believed in until this moment. Something between worship and fear twisted in his gaze. "You've felt it before," I said. "When I crossed the border. When you looked at me in the circle. You felt it then, didn't you?" He nodded once. Slowly. "Yes." I pushed to my feet. The pain had ebbed. The half-shift receded. My body trembled, but I was back in control for now. The pendant stopped glowing, but something else had awakened. And it wouldn't be caged again. Ronan stepped back, watching me as I pulled on the cloak draped near the bed. "I'm going to the forest," I said. "You'll be hunted. Let them try." I pushed past him. He followed. Of course he did. Outside, the sky was bruised and alive. The blood moon hung high and watchful, casting red light over the trees. The moment I set foot in the woods, the earth hummed beneath me. Like it recognized me. Like it had been waiting. Ronan stopped at the edge. "You're not just Shadowfang," he said. "I never said I was." "No," he agreed. "You didn't." He looked at me then, not like a leader, not like an alpha, but like a man. And the heat in his eyes wasn't just curiosity anymore. It was hunger. "You're going to change everything," he said. I already did. And then I disappeared into the trees. But I could feel his gaze on my back long after I was gone. Like fire, like fate. The forest wasn't quiet anymore. It breathed with me. Beneath my bare feet, the ground pulsed in time with something ancient, something mine. Twigs snapped. Wind sighed. And somewhere in the distance, a low howl unfurled across the valley like a blade sliding from its sheath. It wasn't a call of mourning. It was a challenge. I kept walking. The trees parted ahead into a clearing I hadn't seen before, moonlit, still, and perfect. The grass shimmered silver under the blood moon's light. In the center stood a pool, black as ink and still as glass. My reflection stared up at me. Wild hair, glowing eyes, that cursed pendant resting against my collarbone. I didn't recognize the girl looking back. But I didn't hate her. The bond with Ronan buzzed at the edge of my senses, like he was pacing somewhere nearby close, but holding himself back. Good. I didn't know what I'd do if I saw him right now. Because the moment I stepped into the clearing, my body remembered it was mating season. My breath hitched. Heat bloomed low in my belly. Slow, steady, dangerous. The kind of heat that came from instincts you couldn't rationalize. Not want. Need. Every step, every heartbeat was suddenly louder. Sharper, hungrier. The wolf in me paced behind my ribs. She was awake now, and she wasn't shy. "You shouldn't be out here alone." The voice came from the trees. Male. Smooth. And not Ronan. I didn't turn. Neither should you. Footsteps. He stepped into the clearing, tall, broad, all sharp cheekbones and silver-streaked hair. His scent hit me before his name did. Castian. Alpha of the Bloodmaw pack. And Ronan's greatest rival. Well, he said with a smirk. The little stray everyone's whispering about. I turned to face him fully. He looked me over with slow appreciation, his eyes landing on the pendant first, then the shimmer of power still clinging to my skin. "You don't belong to him," he said casually. "I don't belong to anyone. That's not what the mark says." He stepped closer. His power brushed the edge of mine. It didn't make me flinch. It made me ready. "You're dangerous," he said, tone admiring. "Too dangerous for the Shadowfang." I crossed my arms. "Is this your version of a pickup line?" "No," he said. "It's an offer." He circled me like a predator, not touching, just radiating intent. "Come with me. My pack won't fear you, they'll follow you. You were born for something bigger than Ronan's leash." I laughed once. "Lo, you don't even know what I am." "I don't have to. I can smell it. Power. Old, untamed. Every instinct I have says you were made to lead. Not kneel. And you want to be the one beside me?" I asked. He stopped, smiled slowly. "Or beneath you. If that's what it takes." My pulse spiked. Gods, he was good. Too good. But I didn't trust him. Not the way I didn't trust Ronan, which was frustrating, infuriating, personal. No, with Castian, it was something colder. Like a blade pressed to your throat with a kiss on your mouth. He'd gut me the second I wasn't useful. Still, his offer tempted something in me. The hunger, the ambition, the ache to burn down every chain that had ever touched my skin. But I didn't move. Because, just then, he stepped into the clearing. Ronan. Shoulders tense. Eyes blazing. The moon caught the sharp angles of his face, the bare muscles of his chest, and the wild in his scent. He said nothing. Did nothing. And yet Castian took a step back. Ronan's voice was quiet. "You're too old to sniff around another alpha's claim." Castian. Claim? Castian raised a brow. She didn't say that word. She didn't have to. Ronan's gaze moved to me. Not a question. A warning. My body betrayed me. The bond between us sparked white hot. Not a mate bond. Not yet, but something building. Tearing through every breath, every bone. Something ancient and possessive and intimate. "You'd rather be kept in a cage, with a pretty view?" Castian said, voice silk and venom. "I'm offering you war. Freedom, Fire. She already is fire, Ronan said. And just like that, I turned away from Castian. Not because Ronan told me to, but because I wanted to. Castian scoffed. So she chooses the leash. I didn't look back. I let the silence answer. When I and Ronan were alone again, I turned to him. You followed me. He didn't deny it. You think I can't handle myself? I said. I know you can. That's not why I came. I stepped closer, close enough to smell the tension rolling off him. Then why? He looked at me like he was fighting something. Like he was the one about to break. His voice dropped. Because it's mating season. And you're glowing like a storm about to swallow the world. My breath caught. He stepped closer. The pack can smell you, he said. They're circling. Hungry. Even the forest feels it. You think I don't, I whispered. His hand lifted, hovered near my cheek. Didn't touch. If I do this, he said, voice rough, I won't be able to stop. I should have walked away. I should have reminded him that I wasn't his. But instead, I said, then don't stop. His mouth was on mine in a heartbeat. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't slow. It was everything. Heat, teeth, hunger. A kiss that devoured, claimed, unraveled. His hands were on my waist, then in my hair. Then gripping the back of my neck like he was anchoring himself. I bit his bottom lip. He growled low and lethal and bit back. When we broke apart, gasping, lips swollen, eyes burning, he pressed his forehead to mine. This isn't just want, he said. It's something older. I know. His voice dropped to a whisper. Do you feel it too? The pull? No, he said. The choice. I looked into his eyes, and for the first time, I wasn't afraid of the storm in me, because I saw it mirrored in him. I'm not ready to be yours, I said. I'm not asking you to be. Then what are you asking? Let me fight beside you, he said. Let me help you find out what you are. The forest held its breath. I kissed him again, softer, and said, then don't get in my way. Blood doesn't lie. It just waits. It waits in the bones, in the soil, in the dark. And sometimes, it sings. The morning after the kiss, the keep felt colder. Not in temperature, but in atmosphere, as if the very walls knew something had shifted, and they didn't like it. I stood at the high window of my chamber, watching the pack move across the courtyard below. Training, shifting, sparring. A normal day, on the surface. But tension pulsed underneath. They'd felt it too. Whatever passed between Ronan and me under the blood moon wasn't just lust, it had ignited something ancient. The pendant at my throat still burned faintly, not painful, but present, like a warning. Or a promise. There was a knock at the door. Before I could speak, it opened. Not Ronan. Venya. The cold, regal female wolf from the circle, the one who had looked at me like I was an infection. She stepped inside without waiting for permission, her boots clicking sharply on the stone. Don't you knock? I asked. I outrank you, she said. I tilted my head. In what way? Pack? Bloodline? Or are you just Ronan's leftover? Her expression didn't flicker, but her jaw tightened. You should be careful who you insult, Stray. You've made enough enemies without my help. Then stop offering it. She took a step forward. You don't belong here. And yet here I am. Marked, protected, tied to an alpha you barely understand. And now the entire pack is off balance. Because of me? Because of what you woke up in him, she snapped. Something icy curled in my gut. What do you mean? Vanya hesitated just for a second. But it was enough. She said nothing else. Just turned on her heel and left. The door slammed behind her. And that's when I knew. Something was coming. That night, I couldn't sleep. I wandered the halls of the keep, barefoot, silent. The shadows whispered around me, and somewhere deep in the lower levels, I heard a hum. Low, ancient, familiar. The seer. I followed it down into the belly of the keep where the stones sweated and the air was thick with memory. The seer sat in the center of a dark chamber lit only by moonlight through a high window. Her white eyes were closed. Her body swayed slightly. Lyra. She murmured without turning. I stepped into the circle. You called me. I don't call, she said. I listen. And, tonight, the bones are loud. She gestured to the fire beside her, and I saw them. Bones. Real ones. Laid out in careful runes, painted in ash and blood. The wolf in me recoiled. What is this? I whispered. The truth, the seer said. She reached for a shard of bone long, yellowed, cracked down the middle. This belonged to the last she-wolf born under a red moon, she said. My heart stopped. She didn't survive, the seer added. She was hunted. Her blood was spilled into the earth. And from that earth, you were born. I stepped back. That's not possible. Your mother died in childbirth, the seer said calmly, but not before whispering your name. Not before placing something inside you that shouldn't exist. What did she give me? The seer lifted her head slowly. The blood of 2 lines that should never have crossed. I staggered. 2 bloodlines? 2 packs? No. 2 species. You're not just wolf, the seer said. You're something older. A sick, cold fear trickled down my spine. You were hidden for a reason, she continued. But now, they know. Who? The torchlight died. And in the silence, the door behind me opened. Ronan. He stood in the threshold, face carved in shadow. There's been a breach, he said. The seer rose without a word. What kind of breach? I asked. Ronan's jaw was tight. Internal. We raced to the war room, a chamber of stone and steel where the high-ranking wolves met in crisis. When we arrived, the scent of blood already clung to the walls. A body lay in the center. One of the guards from the border. Throat torn out. Chest carved open. I stopped cold. He was on my escort team, I whispered. Ronan didn't look at me. He looked at Venya. Explain. Her face was pale. I don't know what happened. He was loyal. So was I, she said. Until you let her in. The room fell silent. You think I did this? I asked. Vanya's eyes glittered. You admitted yourself you don't know what's inside you. And you don't know what loyalty means. A growl broke through the air. Not mine. Ronan's. Low. Dangerous. Commanding. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. But everyone backed off. Enough, he said. He turned to me. Come with me. I followed him out of the chamber, heart pounding. When we were alone in the corridor, I hissed. You think I killed him? No. But they do. They're afraid. And when wolves are afraid, they turn on the one they don't understand. I stared at him. Then make them understand. His eyes locked on mine. Then let me show them. I frowned. What do you mean? His hand went to the pendant at my throat. This claim, he said. It's not enough anymore. I swallowed hard. Then what is? His hand curled around the back of my neck. His lips brushed my ear. A bond. I froze. A mate bond. He pulled back enough to meet my eyes. It would protect you. Permanently. They couldn't touch you. They'd hate me more. Maybe, he said. But they wouldn't dare act on it. My heart raced. This wasn't romance. This was politics. But his hand still burned on my skin. I'm not ready, I said. I know. He dropped his hand. But soon, you'll have to choose. I nodded, pulse still wild. Because I already knew. The betrayal in the keep was only the beginning. The prophecy was waking. And the wolves were watching. The moon was full and furious the night the ritual began. It rose blood-bright above the mountains, casting red shadows across the keep's inner courtyard where the pack had gathered. A sacred circle had been carved into the stone floor, old runes lit with fire and wolfsbane, the scent of ash thick in the air. I stood at the center of it all, barefoot. Bare-skinned beneath a black ceremonial cloak that draped my body but did little to shield me from the cold stares surrounding me. Every wolf in the keep had come to witness the ritual, to see if I would burn or rise. Ronan stood just outside the ring, a storm caged in flesh. His eyes never left mine. He wore the mantle of alpha, easily sharp lines, command dripping from his body like shadow and smoke. But beneath the surface, I saw it. Fear. Not for himself, For me, the seer had prepared the circle. She moved now. Slowly, carefully, her fingers trailing across the runes. She must bleed. She intoned. And the earth must drink. I didn't flinch. I held out my palm. The seer drew a ceremonial blade curved, silver-edged, ancient, and pressed it gently to my skin. The cut was clean. A single line of blood welled up and spilled down my wrist, striking the stone. The circle lit instantly. A ring of red fire blazed to life around me. The runes pulsed, the wolves stepped back. But not Ronan. He stepped forward. "Are you sure?" he asked, voice low. "No. But you're ready." I looked up at the moon, heart hammering. I don't think I've ever been ready for anything in my life. He didn't smile. But he didn't look away. The seer raised her arms. Her voice shifted, no longer gravel, but thunder. "Blood of two lines. Child of shadow and storm. The moon sees you now. Speak your name." I opened my mouth, and something ancient spoke through me. "I am Lyra Blackthorn. I am the last howl of the lost blood. I am not prey. I am not property. I am the storm beneath the skin." The air changed. A wind swept through the courtyard. Wolves dropped to one knee, eyes wide. The fire blazed higher, not with heat, but with power. Ronan stared at me like I'd become something more, or something terrible. The seer nodded once. "She is the moon's chosen." And then, everything shattered. A scream ripped through the night, not mine. One of the elders, standing near the back of the circle, doubled over, clutching his chest. A second later, he exploded into a full shift, uncontrolled, violent. Snarling. Eyes rolled white. Then another. And another. 3 wolves. Foaming. Twisted. Wrong. They lunged at the circle. Guards moved instantly. But it was me they were after. Ronan roared, not in anger. In rage. He shifted mid-sprint, his beast massive, black as night, teeth bared. He tore into the first corrupted wolf before it reached me. Blood sprayed the circle. I didn't scream. I didn't run. I let the wolf inside me rise, not to shift. To claim. I stepped out of the cloak, bare beneath the moon, and raised my bleeding hand. The corrupted wolves froze mid-charge. Their bodies snapped, muscles seizing. And then they fell. Not dead. Unconscious. Breathing. The courtyard went silent. Every eye turned to me. Every heartbeat waited. The seer spoke first. She didn't shift. She didn't scream. She commanded. I met her eyes. "What are they?" "Traitors," Ronan said, shifting back, blood dripping from his mouth. "Or infected." "With what?" I asked. "Something old," the seer said. "Something that's been waiting." "For me?" "No," she said. "Against you." I looked down at my palm. The blood had stopped, but the power hadn't. Ronan stepped into the circle now, barefoot, shirtless, his skin smeared with the battle's aftermath. He didn't ask permission. He came to me and knelt. The Alpha knelt. "I would fight beside you," he said. "Not because I must. Because I believe." A shiver ran through me. Not fear. Not desire. But fate. I touched his face. The pack followed suit one by one. They knelt. Even Vanya. Even the ones who hated me. Because hate didn't matter anymore. The old blood was awake. The prophecy had shifted. I was no longer the trespasser. I was the reckoning. And the next battle would not be against one corrupted wolf. It would be against whatever wanted my blood next. But I wouldn't be alone. Because the Alpha had chosen. And so had I. The next night, the keep burned. Not from flame, but from power. It crawled through the stones. Buzzed in the bones. Even the wolves who hated me could feel it, something shifting, rising, demanding blood and obedience. I wasn't hiding anymore. I stood in the war hall beside Ronan, bare-shouldered in black leather, the shadow fang crest newly branded into my chestplate. Not as a soldier, not as his, but as mine. The seer had confirmed it, what I'd felt building in me, what the corrupted wolves had tried to silence with teeth. I wasn't just the moon's chosen. I was born of 2 alpha bloodlines. And the fire in my blood wasn't metaphor. It was real. Fire, magic, ancient, long thought extinct ran in my veins. Dormant, cursed, buried. But now it stirred with every breath. You shouldn't be able to wield both, the seer had whispered, hands shaking after the ritual. Wolf and flame. It breaks the natural order. I never followed the order, I told her. Now, I stood at the center of it. Castien's spies had been caught at dawn. They didn't talk, they bled. 3 wolves found dead. 1 wounded, his neck clawed open before he could shift. But they'd left behind something more dangerous than blades or poison. A message. War is coming. Not just against Ronan, against me. Say it again, I said now, turning to the council gathered before us. Venya stood stiff beside the long table, arms crossed, eyes unreadable. The blood maw, she said slowly, have called a hunt. Ronan's jaw clenched. They can't, not without provocation. Vanya looked at me. They say you are the provocation. They're not wrong, I muttered. Ronan shot me a glance. This isn't your fault. Yes, it is. I stepped forward. I walked into your territory under the blood moon. I woke a prophecy. I'm bonded to an alpha and bleeding fire through a wolf pack. What did you think would happen, Ronan? A wedding invitation? He didn't flinch. But no one spoke. The silence stretched, heavy with truth. Then Ronan said, "Let them come." His voice rolled through the hall, steady as stone. "If they want to test the blood of Shadowfang, they'll choke on it." Cheers rose from some of the wolves. But not all, not Vanya. And not me. Because war wasn't glory. It was death. And I had a feeling this wouldn't be a normal battle. That night, as the keep prepared, I stood in the training yard alone. Fire licked at my fingertips, flickering like a pulse I couldn't yet command. The pendant Ronan had given me still hung at my neck, warm now, pulsing in rhythm with the flame. "What are you doing?" he asked, appearing behind me. "Trying not to burn down your yard." He stepped closer. "You're shaking." "I'm scared." His voice softened. "Good. So am I." I turned. He was bare-chested again, sweat glistening on his collarbone, chest rising and falling slow and heavy. The tattoo across his ribs, a black wolf devouring a moon, flexed with every breath. "Don't look at me like that," I said. "Like what?" "Like, I'm the answer to something." "Maybe you are." I stepped into him. "Or maybe I'm the fire that eats everything." His hand came up, fingers sliding behind my neck, tilting my face toward his. "Then burn me," he said. And I did. We didn't make love that night. We claimed. Teeth. Claws. Fire against skin. A bond not yet sealed, but tethered in heat and breath and war-drunk need. When it ended, I lay against his chest, watching the firelight play across the walls. "You knew I wasn't normal," I whispered. "Since the first moment I saw you. Why didn't you kill me?" "Because you weren't a threat." "You're wrong." "I know," he said. Now. The next day, they came. The blood maw didn't arrive in a line. They arrived like a storm. Dozens of them. Black fur, red eyes, silver-plated claws. Castien at the front, regal, monstrous, beautiful in the worst way. His wolf was lean and massive, coated in scar tissue like armor. And beside him, bound in silver chains, was someone I hadn't expected. My sister. Or what was left of her. Alara. I hadn't seen her since we were cubs. We'd been separated after the fire. She was taken by another pack. We were told she died. But here she was, colored, bruised, and very much alive. My vision blurred. Castien shifted, stepping forward. Now in human form, tall and flawless in a cloak of crimson fur. "Little Lyra," he called. "Didn't think I'd bring a gift?" Ronan stepped in front of me. "You don't touch her," he growled. "I don't need to," Castien said. "Her blood will bring your pack to its knees." He turned to me. "You're the storm, yes. The prophecy, the flame." His voice dipped into mockery. "But you forgot what fire needs to live, Lyra." He shoved Alara forward. "Fuel." My scream split the sky. They moved before I could. Ronan. Vanya. The front lines. Wolves collided in a blur of fur and fang. The forest shook with war cries. Blood soaked the snow. Castian shifted again, launching himself into Ronan with a crack of bone. I ran toward Alara, but someone reached her first. A blood maw, wolf mouth open, claws out. She fell, and something inside me snapped. The fire wasn't fire anymore. It was wrath. I screamed her name and flame erupted from the ground. A ring of fire exploded outwards, consuming everything in its path. Bloodmaw wolves yelped and scattered, eyes wide with terror. My body glowed from within, flames licking up my arms, my legs, my soul. I lifted my hand, pointed at Castian. "This is your war," I said. "And I am the end of it." He hesitated for the first time, because, in that moment, he didn't see a girl. He saw God. The fire didn't stop. It moved with me alive, wild, protective. A storm made of heat and hunger. The battlefield was chaos, wolves snarling, steel clashing, the smell of blood and burning fur in the air. Castian's forces were breaking under the weight of Shadowfang's fury and the fire that would not die. But none of it mattered now, because Alara was in my arms. She was alive, barely conscious, eyes fluttering, skin slick with blood but breathing. I pressed my forehead to hers and whispered her name like a promise. Then I rose, and I burned. Every wolf that lunged for me fell, not dead, just stopped. As if their bones turned to stone midair, my fire didn't consume them. It judged them, and it found them unworthy. I found Castian in the chaos, first scorched, limping, eyes still full of ego even as his pack fell around him. "You're not Alpha," he snarled. "You're an accident." "No," I said, stepping closer. "I'm Evolution," he lunged. I didn't shift. I didn't scream. I simply raised my hand. The fire answered. It didn't engulf him. It stripped him, down to bone, down to weakness. And when the flames died, Castian lay on the ground, coughing, powerless. I stood over him, my body glowing gold red from the inside. The pack watched. Shadowfang, Bloodmaw, even Ronan. None of them moved. They were waiting for my judgment. "Yield," I said. Castian bared his teeth. Then he looked around at the flames, the fallen, the wolves who once followed him, now staring at me with awe or fear. And he lowered his head. Not to me, to the fire. It was over. After the battlefield was cleared, after the injured were treated and the dead laid in stone, I found Ronan on the western cliff, overlooking the valley. He stood with his arms crossed, blood dried at the corner of his jaw, a deep gash on his side. "You should be resting," I said. "So should you." I moved beside him. The wind was cold, but the fire inside me still pulsed, not as a weapon now, but a companion. "I saw you," he said quietly. "During the battle?" "No. Before. From the beginning." He turned to me. "You were never mine to protect. You were always the one who'd protect us." My throat tightened. He reached into his pocket and pulled out something small. The pendant. The chain was burned through. The metal blackened, the crest barely visible, but it was still whole. He pressed it into my palm. "You don't need this anymore," he said. I looked up at him. His eyes were soft now. The alpha stripped away. Only the man remained. "I want to claim you," he said. "Not for politics. Not for power, for truth." My pulse jumped. He stepped closer. "But I won't do it unless you say the words." I took his hand, lifted it to my heart, and said, "I am not yours." He didn't flinch. "I am not anyone's." "I know, but I'll walk beside you." His eyes burned brighter. I leaned in. "And I'll burn anyone who tries to chain me again." He smiled. And finally, I said the words. "I accept the bond." In that moment, the air shifted. The wind howled. And something ancient passed between us. Not a mark. Not a chain. A thread of gold fire between our souls, visible only to us. He pulled me into him, and when our mouths met, it wasn't hunger this time. It was home. When we broke apart, he whispered, "What will you do now?" I turned toward the moon, full and bright and watching. "I'll lead." They crowned us in fire. Not with ceremony, but with instinct. The keep didn't need thrones. It needed leaders who bled and roared and kissed with their teeth. The Shadowfang knelt to us. So did the broken remnants of Bloodmaw, not out of fear, but because we'd done what none of them could. End a war, unleash a new bloodline, and rewrite the prophecy. I didn't become Ronin's mate. We became Alpha and Alpha. Two storms side by side. My sister healed in the keep's sanctuary. Vanya pledged loyalty, not as an apology, but as a warrior. The seer vanished, leaving behind only a final whispered warning. "The fire gave you life," she said, "but it may ask for more before it's done." I accepted it, because I was no longer the trespasser. No longer the stray. No longer the girl afraid of her own skin. I was Lyra Blackthorn, the Alpha's mate, and the fire that would never burn out.